All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Just a note from a listener saying they just bought a Canadian flag at Rona. Canadian Tire was sold out in Kirkland, they say, lots of demand. I heard from listeners, by the way, Dollarama has Canadian flags. I think we're looking to show our Canadian pride this week. So let me know if you find flags for sale. I'll let our listeners know as we look to fly the flag on Flag Day this Saturday. Let's head over now to Mitch Joel, tech advisor, investor, author of Control Alt Delete, founder of ThinkersOne. Another guy that I could talk to about just about anything. Hi, Mitch. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Elias, and the feeling is mutual.
Okay, forget tech, by the way. I just had Brendan Kelly on. We didn't even do the topic for half of the segment, but so I just want to start out with you on these hockey games. You have any interest in Canada versus Sweden, Canada versus U.S. At all?
So one, Brendan and I go way back, and also somebody I can speak to forever. And I just got tickets for tomorrow night, U.S. Finland. Yeah, a friend of mine from the NHL reached out. I hadn't seen them in years. I guess they're in town. We're like, who? And so I am super pumped. I brought the idea to the kids, and they got really, really excited. Yeah. So we're gonna go to the games tomorrow. I'm afraid to look at what the ticket price costs, but happy to get them.
But U.S. versus Finland, not a Canadian game, because those are more accessible. By the way, if you want to go to this tournament and you don't want to break the bank, that's the way to do it. Don't go to a Canada game.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm excited to see it. I mean, you're going to get all of the best on the ice. Let's see what happens. But we could use a little bit of entertainment in our global world that has been completely divided and continues to be. So I'm down for the experience.
Listen, I should tell our listeners, 514-790-0800 is the text line. If any of you want to take me to a game, send me text. I'm in. If any of you are like, hey, I got an extra seat, Canada, USA, I'll take Elias. I'm totally in. Okay, Mitch, let's talk artificial intelligence. Let's go up your alley here. First things first, AI Summit in Paris this week. What did you hear? What did you see that struck you as important, and why should we be paying attention to what happened in Paris this week?
Right. So this past week, we had the AI Action Summit taking place in Paris. A lot of world leaders, including our own Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, was there. JD Vance getting a somewhat interesting standing ovation feedback in terms of just what he delivered as a speech. But I think there's a bigger theme going on, and maybe it ties into what we just said earlier, which is, if I look back to when the internet first took hold, it was really this idea of how do we as a world now connect and come together with all the problems we have geographically, geopolitically, and just nationalistically. This was very different. Where I think it started that way, this AI Action Summit really had countries standing up declaring that we are in some type of AI arms race. This wasn't a unified connection at all. Yeah. In fact, JD Vance's presentation, which I recommend everybody watch, is fantastic, but it's coming on the tail of this $500 billion Stargate investment from the US. And what you had is the EU coming out with a $200 billion plus plan. You had France coming out, Macron, who hosted this, coming out with a $100 billion offering. By the way, interestingly, Canada did not make a statement in terms of what we are willing to invest, which I think sends another dire signal in a very complex situation that we're currently dealing with at the tariff level. So if you wanted to ask me the macro output of a Macron event, that would be it. And I don't think people are talking about that, how actually individualistically we're playing with AI now.
I want to touch, because I'm happy you brought up what JD Vance had to say, and I'm interested into the reaction that you saw, because I watched it as well, what JD Vance had to say, and I took it as a big, I hate to use this term, like a big FU, that's what the kids say, to some of the regulatory stuff that's happening, particularly in Europe. Look at the stuff that's happening in Canada with proposed legislation to legislate online affairs. That I took it as a straight out attack. So when you talk about standing O's from some people, boy, I think some battle lines are being drawn. Did you take it that way?
Well, I think the standing O came in two formats. One was Americans being really happy to see this, but secondarily, what I meant to say is that presentation-wise, it was nice to see a leader speak so cogently and passionately, and not just feel like it was written for them. There was a knowledge in there that I feel was appreciated. But I should say you're absolutely right that JD Vance actually said, will make people, that AI is going to make people more productive. It's going to make them more prosperous and more free. Interesting. But he then added that the United States of America is the leader in AI. He stated that. He didn't say that we are going to be, and our administration plans to keep it that way. He was very specific that he would like countries to work with them, not necessarily as partners, but as the leaders, and that the talent and everything will remain America first.
So the other thing, and I highlighted this on Twitter, I watched a bit of Emmanuel Macron and what he had to say. And he said, United States, they are drill, baby, drill to provide energy for AI. And he said, here in France, it's plug, baby, plug. We have nuclear energy and we have plenty of it. Bring your AI to France. And this is when I said, Canada, well, you mentioned Canada and, we didn't make any pledges for investment. Well, we can't even make pledges for energy, because we've spent the last decade fighting against oil, gas, and nuclear. So that's another. I'm worried about Canada, Mitch, and I don't know if you've got something to say there.
Massively, and we've talked about this before, and Canada had previously, years ago, abdicated this and said, we are going to follow and integrate with the US. And I'm guessing now they're rethinking that. And by the way, we can't also not mention the fact that when it comes to AI, we've spoken a lot about this year about safety, and that safety is the big thing. And actually what we saw here is that safety really took a back seat. I think this is the first time I've seen an event talk primarily about how do we harness this technology to an economic benefit, not necessarily a global one again, but one that might be driven by the countries. And I'm certainly concerned because it's clear that the output of this is that countries need to think very big. They need to build a real credible rival, even to the likes of an open AI. And that I don't know if everybody wants to agree that we're just going to let the US take the lead, not just from a Canadian perspective, but from a global one. So this is now becoming a much bigger conversation. And unfortunately, as the US continues to flood the zone, as we like to say, we're not paying as much attention to it. But I should also say that what I like about what's coming out of this Trump administration, maybe not the nationalism part, but the techno-optimism part, that with it is a sense of optimism, that this is the future and it's bright and it's going to make us more productive and it's going to give us all these things. Again, a message I would love to hear out of Canada.
Let's wrap a bow on this discussion and let's bring up a couple of names we already mentioned. Sam Altman, I saw him having a cafe, as one does in Paris. He sat down with Emmanuel Macron. And I just want, maybe we could wrap up here by talking about Sam Altman, of course, the CEO of OpenAI, and maybe his oversized influence right now. What do you see on that end?
He is rapidly innovating, and I use that word because I'm hesitant to talk about speed. My new real stance is that I don't think speed is a factor. Everything's always moving fast and going to move faster. I think direction is more important than speed, and having a plan, a compass for that direction. So that's my message to businesses. But I would say even here, as we look at what they're doing, Sam Altman is running OpenAI exactly like that. Forget foreboding a $100 billion bid from Elon Musk and others to take it over. If you look at how it's iterating on its reasoning models, which is no longer just predicting, it's actually reasoning. If you look at the scale of which it's doing it, some are arguing that it's producing PhD level outputs at this point. And then if you look at the other things happening around their operators and the AI agents, which I guess we'll talk about another time, which is fine. It is a fascinating business case study in how you can develop and deploy so many different products and services with this level of complexity. It's fascinating.
Mitch, we're going to leave it there. Great discussion. Come back real soon, okay?
Love it. Thanks, Elias.
Mitch Joel is founder of ThinkersOne.